Toshi is a little sick, so sorry if I sound a little out of it in today's video, but we've talked plenty about the characters in Honkai Star Rail and how they exactly can double dip, maybe even triple dip. A character like Lucha is primarily an abundance character, but he is also a character that has very nice offensive buffing capabilities, and he has very good offensive debuffing capabilities. Hence why he's a character that finds himself in the path of harmony time to time, in the path of nihility time to time, but is primarily known as abundance character. Seal is undoubtedly the best damage dealer in the game. She has very strong single target damage, but she is able to get an additional turn whenever she kills an enemy. Hence, she has pseudo AoE, we would call it. Having access to one of the strongest, if not the strongest, single target multiplier on her ultimate, aside from a character like E6 Silverwolf. But this character is primarily known for getting resets on a turn whenever she kills an enemy, which is very good because you can use her in many AoE situations where you're fighting multiple mobs at once. So a character like Seal is a very strong hunt DPS character, but she has like traits of an erudition character. Not necessarily that makes her an erudition character alone, but she functions like erudition characters because of her resets, giving her multiple instances of, like I said, pseudo AoE. So the design philosophy of Honkai Star Rail's paths has been waxed since day one, and the truth is Seal was the character that started it. So you have a character like Den Heng who's able to put a slow enemy, which gives him nihility-like traits, but it doesn't dip, or double dip I should say, as hard as a character like Seal when it comes to really the overall kit design of the character. Then we have a character like Su Sheng who works as a primarily single target damage dealer, and that's pretty much what she is at her core. She's a very nice weakness breaker, but I would say all of these single target damage dealers are very nice weakness breakers. We have a character like Yang Qing who is a premier hunt character. This is a perfectly designed hunt character that falls in line with just being very balanced. He's a character that you would never worry about being oppressive at any given point, because he does what any hunt character should do, and that is single target damage. He also has a freeze in this kit, which is very nice, but that just comes with the territory of being an ice character. So a character like Seal made the path of erudition not as valuable as they should be, because she had the traits of the characters here, but was in a path where she was able to benefit from her high multipliers on her single target damage skills. Once Jing then released after Seal, he also was a character that double dipped as well. He was a very nice AoE damage dealer, but he had very comparable single target damage dealer to the best single target damage dealer in the game. Now fast forward, and he's kind of been a character that's been overshadowed. Now we'll get into that later in the video, but he wasn't as strong as he once was, and that happened relatively quickly. Alongside a character like Seal was Bronya, and this character is also just as strong as a character like Seal. I would argue this character has more value than that character. Being able to cleanse a debuff from an ally makes it to where she has the traits of an abundance character, because this is primarily what an abundance character is known for. That consists of a class of characters that are healers, cleansers, and revivers. Bronya has the skill of a cleanser reviver character, which doesn't really fall in line with the path of harmony. She's primarily known as a buffer for the team, but when you're able to cleanse a debuff from an ally, that puts you leagues above the rest of the characters in your path. So when you take a look at the path of harmony, Bronya is a character that does more than every single character here, and that's part of the reason why most people use this character in every scenario, because she's just way too flexible. Having a cleanse makes it to where you don't have to bring a cleanser in your team comp. You can use a character like Bailu and get away with not having to worry about being CC'd. Because as long as you have a character like Bronya that is able to resist debuffs on her own, then she can cleanse debuffs from the ally that gets hit by the CC. So just like Seal, being a character that was at the time of the launch of the game makes it to where she's a character that essentially made all the current cast of characters not as good as they should be, because she does more than what those characters do, while also being able to be a flexible character to where she makes the characters in the path of abundance not look as valuable as they might be, notably a character like Natasha, because you can just bring a character like Bailu that heals, or a character like Jetpar that shields the team, and still get as much value as you would, if not more, because you have a much more flexible character. Now, Silverwolf is a character that I will argue is very balanced because she doesn't double dip. Now, the truth is, she is a very strong single target damage dealer because of her multipliers, but you could argue that characters in the path of nihility also do a lot of damage as well. If you have access to the Eidolon 4 for Silverwolf, you're going to increase your damage output by a milestone. And then having Idle on 6 would further increase that damage you would have from your single target Nihility debuffer. So in past videos, we talked about Silverwolf being a character that makes characters in the path of the hunt not be as good as they should be. And the truth is that comes at a cost of $1,000 or maybe more. She's a character that is able to do much more if you were to put more investment into her, monetary investment. So a character like Silverwolf I classify to be okay. She's a character that doesn't necessarily double dip because she works as a debuffer first and foremost. And of course, if you have money to burn, then she acts more than a debuff. She is a very strong single target damage dealer. But for most players, the majority of the player base in the game, you're probably never going to see a character like Silverwolf have the potential of a character like Seal. That sounds kind of rude the way I say it because that is insinuating you are broke. I'm not saying you're broke. I'm just saying that you wouldn't spend $1,000 on this game at any given point, right? Right? Fast forward then later after the release of Silverwolf, you have a character like Luocha who is a very strong, very oppressive healer. He does so much healing. His healing output is the best in the game. His damage output as a healer is pretty good. He also has a debuff in the form of removing buffs from the enemy. It's very valuable because it's comparable to characters like Pela, and his hits every single enemy on the field, so he's arguably better than Pela in those situations. He also has a cleanse in his kit, making him leagues above a character like Natasha. And last but not least, he is a character that has passive healing, so he's very skill point neutral, putting him above characters that can heal but burn skill points in the process. And just like Silverwolf, he's a character that is able to increase his sheer capabilities as a team supporter with the power of the wallet. Having Idle on 1 gives an attack increase to all allies on the field by a large amount. This is comparable to characters in the path of the Harmony, because 20% is, well, sometimes in many situations, a character like Asta is pretty much half of the buffs that she would provide to the team. So you can see why that ever since the release of Luocha, the fundamental design philosophy behind characters in Honkai Star Rail started to seem a little more and more jaded. As time goes on, it's going to be very hard for Hoyoverse to design characters that fall in line with the path they're in. Because why would you go for a character now going forward that is worse than Luocha in the path of abundance? A character like Blade I figured to be very balanced. Now, believe it or not, he's a character that falls in line with other characters in the path of the destruction. He's a bruiser character that is very flexible in many team compositions, but what I think makes him very good as a balanced character is the fact that he doesn't generate skill points. If he was to do that, then he would be a very oppressive character. But I think where it stands currently, him being a character that doesn't generate but also doesn't burn any skill points, makes him very balanced. Don't get me wrong, he is definitely on the borderline of being overpowered, and that's not something you would want for the future or longevity of Honkai Star Rail. And then fast forward, and then you have a character like Kafka that also does it all, just like Luocha, Seal, Bronya, and Jing. But Jing is a character that I said earlier in the video was overshadowed by a future character, and that character being Kafka. Kafka is a character that is able to do very nice AoE damage to the enemy because she applies dots to the enemies, and then she could proc those dots on the enemies, while also being able to proc the dots from the allies that put the dots onto the enemies, making her a very strong AoE damage dealer. And the scary part of it all is that Kafka is a character that at E0 is just as good as she is. Unlike Silverwolf needing E6 to unlock that hunt DPS playstyle the character is able to provide, a character like Kafka is able to be a very strong AoE damage dealer and very strong debuffer in the form of damage over time that the enemy takes whenever they take their turn. She's a character that is able to function as a erudition character at E0. However, it also doesn't help that we now just entered the phase where Kafka is going to excel even more in the Memories of Chaos. There is a buff literally tailor-made for the character. So there you have it. I don't want you to be scared after watching this video. I also did not want this video to leave you with the impression that Honkai Star Rail is doomed to fail. That was never my intention throughout the whole video. I simply just wanted to talk about how characters have a trouble staying or sticking to their path because Hoyoverse is designing characters to do more than what other characters in that path do. So what does this mean for the future of Honkai Star Rail? Well, first of all, if we're talking power creep, it's really hard to keep characters in line and keep the design philosophy balanced when it comes to characters in turn-based games in general. So it's going to be very hard to keep that up for the near or foreseeable future, I should say. So in Hoyoverse's best interest, they probably should make a character like Silverwolf more often. A character that does what you want the character to do at E0 for the character in that path, in her case being an offensive debuffing support, while also being able to be a very strong single target damage dealer of the hunt path with Eidolons. I think it's good for free to play and is very enticing for whales. You are able to please both communities. That's it. Thank you for watching and have a nice rest of your day. Peace.